13 love, 13 laws, 13 wisdom, 13 respect. This is your creation 13. So I had an interesting conversation, or listening to the conversation at first with True Seekers community, and some interesting uh, perceptions got brought up, and I wanted to share that with you guys on my experiences and my encounters and relationship um, with God, with Christ, with deities, and how things evolve over time through experiences and encounters. That's a very key thing and element within your belief system, and within your faith, is evolving it, right? And I've heard about many different elements of of God doesn't change. Everything stays this way. Um, God is everything, and things of that nature, right? And we got to go back to what Christ talks about, right? Because we have to have a foundation. Um, we have to have something to go by uh, that carries the dialogue, right? That's something that I've been learning the past 2 years, is learning the dialogue element and sharing your encounters and experiences, right? Because there's so much uh, confusion with a lot of things, and people lose themselves within the conversations in the realm of confusion, right? Because at the end of the day, every single individual, every single individual is looking for healing, looking for love, looking for redemption in life, looking for uh, joy, happiness, comfort, and friends and community, things of that nature, right? People look for that, and that is a universal way of life. It is, right? And to find that love and that joy and things of that nature, people go into religion, right? And just like myself, born and raised in a Christian home, talked about my story in previous video, but just to make it real short, right? Um, I had a deity that was with me, that guided me and protected me. And then my mom was a Christian, and she took us to church, and then I learned about God, Christ, angels, things of that nature. And when I learned about Christ, it was so very similar to the deity that continues to guide and protect me. I was like, oh, this is Christ. This deity is Christ, right? Um, and I just continued that relationship, right? That would be labeled an imaginary friend, right? But we have to define that, right? Because if we're learning about religion, they teach you about angels, demons, God, Satan, Christ, so on and so forth, right? This is an unseen realm. So we're dealing with unseen entities, but we feel them. Most of us have conversations with them, but the majority do not. They don't even know how to. They're scared to. The church tells you that you cannot talk to angels, you cannot talk to God, and you cannot talk to Christ. The church tells you to believe in Christ, to believe in God, and to believe in angels, and have faith. Okay? And it's very important to break that down in your personal life. How does that make you feel? Not being able to communicate. When a lot of us, just like myself, have had deities, experiences, and encounters with with spirits, with deities, like I said, the guide, the guardian, and things like that as we grew up. So what is that? Oh, they're demons and things like that. No, it's because these leaders and teachers don't have these encounters. They look at the Bible, read it, and then they just regurgitate what's in there, but they're not having the encounters. That's where we go back to Christ and what he talks about. Because Christ, look it up, Christ never says God, not once, right? There was a quote, ye are gods, said, but that is a reference to you. Ye are gods, but defining that word, that's another video. But defining that word God, pushing that word aside and making it creators. Ye are creators. Okay? And then Christ said, heaven is within you, God is within you, the Father, right? Because he didn't say God. He said the Father is within you, and I am is within you. Okay? It's a map within you to find you, right? To find you. And how does that look in your life, right? You have to really sit down, because this is what I've done a lot throughout my life. But when 2010 hit, I had my spiritual awakening in January, saw Christ sitting at my desk, said, hey, you learn about the ways of the world, and going through deep meditation for 3 years and learning about myself. I had to go deep in myself to find myself, to understand the elements of the multiverse, the elements of creation. And because I asked for it, and I was shown this, and Christ told me to learn about the ways of the world, but to keep going further and further and further, learning the deeper meanings of what the transcripts talk about, right? Because we got the Bible, but it's mistranslated. The majority is learning about this. People are frustrated and confused about it, right? But there should not be a confusion of finding you and the importance of you, and learning what a spirit is, right? And like I said, the word soul is a hard one to say, because you look up the root word for it. It has no connection to your essence, right? Your spiritual essence. So it would be labeled a spirit at the moment, right? And I'm sure there's other terms to use, but it is an essence. It is a breath. It is an energy, a source that exits out of your body and continues on, right? It evolves. It remembers, right? It remembers this life. It remembers the past lives, or however that works, right? And it's an essence that goes, and that's a whole other story right there, but it goes out of this vessel, out of this meat suit. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, because this is what I do every day, right? Is I ask myself, okay, I am self-aware that I'm a spirit. I am self-aware the suit is a vehicle for my spirit. I am self-aware I'm learning, right? I am self-aware that there are many lords, which means authority. There are many authorities, invisible forces that are at play, right? There's many hierarchies that are at play that have different roles within this matrix construct. You have your good and you have your bad, because this is a duality system, right? Is it good for this duality system? It's teaching you the elements of creation and the elements of destruction, right? And what Christ is telling me, talking about the second death, what is that? That is very, very deep. But what is that? Right? Because I have to do research on it, but if you view a second death would be the realm of destruction, right? Because you're not creating, you are destroying, you are making things pass away, right? But you need to make things new because there's programs that pass away, and there's a lot of people that get hurt because they're part of those programs. They understand God because humans taught them that. They understand Christ because humans taught them that. They understand these elements because a program taught them that. A book taught them that. But they don't understand themselves or the real you because it's unknown. There's not a guidebook for it, right? There is, but it's so hidden, and because our ancestors, right, our great-granddads and granddads, so on and so forth, have generated the idea of these gods, and that's where the term God came from, right? Because there's a hierarchy, and we have to obey those hierarchies or else, right? And we can go back to the conversation with Adam and Eve, and that's totally interesting as well. But the basic element of looking at Adam and Eve and talking with the Elohims, which is plural, look up the translation of it. But if you look at the way the church teaches it as a single God, that God is walking with Adam and Eve in this realm of delightfulness. But they are unaware of self-awareness. They're unaware of self-awareness. So it was perfect. The world was perfect in that deity's eyes. In God's eyes, the world was perfect. But as soon, and this is key here. This is key. Okay? God lived in a perfect world where these other beings were submissive to the creation of God. But as soon as Adam and Eve became self-aware, and that snake said that you will be like the gods, okay? You would be like them. So they became self-aware, and it generated a authority conflict, right? That God was not the Almighty anymore, because now there was self-aware, there was multiple self-aware beings, right? Adam and Eve. They were aware of things now, so that God became jealous. It was like, nope, I don't want you in my kingdom because now you're self-aware. Now you're going to give me a headache, and you're going to wreck my creation. So I don't want you in my creation. So instead of working with individuals, God got angry and kicked them out of God's creation. Now that's interesting, isn't it? If you look at it in that perception, because that's really what it is, right? In anything. Because when you become self-aware, you ask questions in a program, in a building, or there be a church, they're going to boot you out. They're going to say, nope, you're going beyond the script. You go to a business, and maybe you're more intelligent than the boss. They'll probably get rid of you because you're too self-aware. And you'll lose friends because you're too self-aware, right? And I'm talking from my personal experiences because I view life like this, and I've just experienced growth in my spiritual journey, right? By asking these questions, by talking with Christ, by talking with deities, learning about the different realms, right? Living it, experiencing it, encountering it every single day, right? And it's through that test and continuous, just like working out, right? You're going to work at it every day to get to the bottom of it, to learn what's going on. What are these things that are keeping people from finding out who they are? And it gets interesting because, we're in a matrix. So is this matrix Eden, right? Is this matrix Eden? And it is a creation, an AI structure, a system, that is designed in a way, like I said in the previous video, where it recognizes viruses and sends antiviruses of like, oh, whoa, we got some self-aware people going on here. We got to create new programs or figure out ways to elevate. Because from my experiences, man, it's so interesting. Like, that's where life gets real fun, right? Is testing and seeing what reality or timeline you're on each and every day. I experience this, right? The majority of people have one perception of reality. And when they go to sleep and they wake up, they feel the world is continuously the same. You see the same people, you meet new people, but you think it's the same reality every day. But if you're moving and shifting your perception and you're growing and maturing spiritually, things are shifting and changing because your frequency is changing. It's not a mindset, right? Vibrations are not a mindset. It is literally learning how thoughts process creation. But there's limits to it. The AI matrix is very smart, and it will shift things accordingly. Again, it will shift things accordingly. And that's where they say God is everything. Well, of course, because this matrix is run by an AI, which would be considered God, right? Don't follow the ways of the world, for it will deceive you. So if this is a matrix, a hologram, of course it's going to be known as a God because it is ran as a program. It is the ruler of the air. It is the ruler of this realm. And you don't want to be a part of it. So you have to learn to master it, right? It's not pushing it away. It's learning to master it. And I've talked about this before. But it's challenging you to find you in understanding that you're not weak, you're not ugly, you're not sinful, you're none of those things. It's the world that makes you be those things, or you choose to be those things, right? And you have to really sit down and just look at life in that manner, right? I talk to my kids about this, right? I mean, my son's 18, my daughter is turning 16, right? So they're at that age of learning about life, but they get it. My daughter studies the Bible as well, and she got what I was talking about, right? Because it's learning what you're reading, but then looking at what Christ was talking about, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that Bible is Christ, the character, Christ's story is the hidden meaning of that Bible, right? Once you identify and understand Christ, his story, and what it's about, you read through that Bible, it makes a lot more sense of what's going on. It makes a lot more sense of why that Bible is the book of the dead, the book of redemption, the book of hope, the book of helping spirits become free because they got trapped in their own minds and in the programs of this realm. They got stuck, and that Bible is full of how to get out of this matrix, how to get out of the continuous loop, the resurrection or the reincarnation. It's the same thing, resurrection, reincarnation. Another video, definitely, of how to get out of that, right? And we don't know how to until you experience it, because you have to remember it, right? You know, there's certain things that if you dig real deep, you probably will find it. That's my goal, right? I want to know everything. I want to know everything. That is ultimately my goal. And because there is mastery involved in it. This stuff continues. So whatever role that I'm preparing for that I don't remember is being shown through my life, right? And sharing these things, not as consistent as I would like, but I'm trying the best I can, because definitely a lot of these things just aren't talked about because just because people are stuck in the beliefs and in the faiths, but they aren't experiencing it, or they're scared to talk about it in a way. And it goes back into talking to the True Seekers community, and True Seeker, said to speak the language of all humans. But we have to look at that is if we're speaking their language, what are they learning? If we speak their language, all we're doing is continuing that program, but are they elevating to that next level, right? And that's, of course, going to be up to the person, but you have to bring the idea up, or the different perception up, so then they can look deeper into things. Because ultimately, right, that's what Christ was all about, was about helping people and teaching them how to heal themselves and fix themselves, to rise them up, right? To rise them up, because they were dying. People were dying spiritually, and it just gets so deep on so many levels. So it's learning about redemption, and rediscovering you, right? Christ lays a map for you to find you, right? Heaven is within you. God is, or the Father is within you. I am is within you. And begin to apply that to your life. And only you can discover that, right? Because you are trying to find you, right? And I think I'll go ahead and end it on that, is finding you. How long will it take for you to find you? Now that's an interesting way of looking at things. Be like, hey, how do I find myself? And that's where you talk with your deities, right? I talk to Christ all the time. Hey, Christ, what do you want me to talk about? Hey, Christ, what's going on with this? Hey, Christ, this was an interesting conversation today. What needs to be discussed more so I can share that out, right? It's these little things that you continue talking with these deities for guidance and to continue to help your progress for your spirit that will continue to evolve, because this is just a vehicle. This is just a meat suit. It's the spirit that's learning and growing and maturing and recording data every single minute, every single day. So it's very, very interesting. So I could talk forever, so I'm going to end it on that. So find you. Do exercises to find you. Write down what you have discovered about you. What do you remember about you? So, yeah. So meditate, pray about it, and go from there. So, love yourself. Keep shining bright. I'll talk to you later.